We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. Uh-oh, thrift diving.
Hey, what's up? It's Serena Pia from thriftiving.com, which is a do-it-yourself blog, YouTube channel, and podcast that helps you decorate, improve, and maintain your home with paint, power tools, and thrift stores without sacrificing your budget, the environment, or style. Welcome to episode 106 of the Thrift Diving Podcast, and I have to admit, I am tired this week. I have had a grueling week on set at a photo shoot. And if you remember at the end of last episode, I told you that I was picked to be one of the models for a big brand doing a photo shoot in Baltimore. And I really didn't want to sit down to record tonight because I just feel exhausted, physically exhausted, mentally exhausted. And I just felt like I wanted to relax tonight. I tried to work today. I didn't get very much done. My son needed to go to physical therapy, and then he had a birthday party in the evening. And so I've just been kind of doing like mom stuff, taking the kid around, doing things. And so I just really wanted to lay down, but I said, you know what? No, it's Friday night. I published my podcast, and I'm actually very excited to tell you about how the shoot went. And the moment that I had the biggest fear while performing in front of a whole crew of people. Talk about imposter syndrome. We're going to actually talk about that today because I had this moment of like, oh my gosh, everyone is going to think I am a fraud. And it happens to the best of us, no matter what your skills, your abilities, somehow we always tend to think, well, I can't say we always. There are some of us who have complete faith in their ability to perform 100% of the time. And I don't know what kind of mental thing they have going on, but it's a mental strength or could be a weakness where they think they cannot fail. But I think if you're like me, you're someone who sometimes questions your ability. How creative am I really? Or how professional am I really? Am I really that creative at all? And so let me back up a little and start this story in the beginning so that you can find out my fears and how I even came to find out about this photo shoot and how it actually went and all the cool things that I experienced during the week and all the things that were not quite so cool. Okay, so back several years ago, my oldest son knew a friend from school. His mom was a casting agent for I think more like government contract type media. And we had done maybe just one or two small odd jobs with her, but she gets emails from casting agents all the time looking for talent for just different things. And so she happened to reach out to me and said, hey, here's an opportunity that's come across my email. It sounds like something you'd be eligible for and you'd be perfect for. Go ahead and submit your information if you're interested. So it was for a company that, now if you've ever done insulation in your home around your windows, your doors, you probably used great stuff, right? It comes in like red cans, yellow cans, black cans. And when you shake it up and you spray it, there's a foam that comes out and you can put it around your doors and windows, keep out the drafts. And then it expands to like this astronomical size. And you don't even realize it's expanding as much or it's going to expand as much. And you have to cut it away, right? Because it expands and that's what you do. You cut the excess away and then you've got some insulation around your doors and windows. So this company was planning to do, or this brand, which is owned by DuPont, was planning to do a photo shoot in Baltimore and they were looking for talent. And when I saw that they were looking for people between the ages of, I think it was like 25 and 40, I thought, well, I'm 45. I don't look 45. I think I can get away with falling into what they're looking for. And I was accepted. I was one of the people accepted. And I didn't realize that they were looking for DIY people. And let's put it this way. They were looking for people to play or act as the DIYers, and they were looking for people to act as the professionals. So when I found out that I had actually made it, that I was selected, I was chosen as one of the professionals. It was myself and two other men. So there were 3 of us. And then I believe there were maybe 2 or 3 people who were put into the DIY slot. And I was a little surprised by that because in my mind, when I tell people about thrift diving, about what I do, I always start it by saying, oh, thrift diving is a DIY blog, YouTube channel, podcast, right? So I think of myself as a DIYer. I don't think of myself as a professional. And being put into that category of professional, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to perform? Are they looking to me to be a certain, I don't know, like what are my responsibilities going to be when I come to set, right? If I'm being put into this pro category, what am I going to have to do? What am I going to have to prove? And I started feeling imposter syndrome. And if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, I did a little search and it says it's a psychological occurrence in which an individual doubts their skills, their talents, or their accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. And I will tell you, leading up to this photo shoot, I had major imposter syndrome. Now, I wasn't freaking out to the point of where I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I've been on sets before. I've done plenty of things with Ryobi. I have done things for Duluth Trading Company. I mean, I didn't actually have to do anything other than, maybe lift a pallet and carry a tool. And they take pictures and videos. So I didn't actually have to do anything. But I knew that this one was going to be a little different because it was going to be with this spray foam. And I've used it. If you saw my videos from my YouTube channel when I was doing my shed here, I actually was using great stuff in order to insulate around parts of my shed. So, and I've used it before around doors and windows. So it's not like I've never used it before. But I didn't know what was going to be expected of me. So that's the fear that I had. Am I going to be professional enough? What if I'm not what they think I am? What if I'm really not as talented as what I'm thinking they may need me to be on set? Right? Okay. So anyway, I get there on Monday morning, a little nervous, but not really, just curious about what the day was going to be like. And nothing was set up. Right? We get there at 7:00. That's what time call was, 7:00. And nothing was set up. And it was in this part of Baltimore. Actually, it was Essex, which I believe is probably Baltimore County. And it was 2 homes under construction. One was sort of the place where the hair and makeup was. And then the other place, the other home under construction was where we were going to do all the shooting. So it took some time for the crew to get set up. And we didn't actually get started till about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And at that time, it was cool because it gave me a chance to get to know the other 2 guys. And what I found, or I should say the other 3, there was 3 guys that showed up. 2 of them were also in the pro category, and one was a DIYer. But what I realized is that they had hired actors. These were actors. These were not people who were professional tradesmen by any means. Now, one of the guys, he was really, they were all cool, really. I really enjoyed getting to know them, and I'll tell you about them. And I'll leave their contact information below. But all 3 of them were actors. And the one actor that I met first, he actually looked like the Marlboro Man. Like, if you would see him, and you could actually see his picture down below, click on his link. But he looks like a rugged, handsome, like Marlboro Man. And it actually did come across in his videos and the videos and the photos that they took of him. Like, he was very photogenic. His name was Jason, and he was really cool. So, I got to know him. I got to know the other guy, Camilo. He was also an actor. And Jason actually had some experience with construction and DIY. It wasn't his background per se, but he had done it on the side. And as an actor, because he was comfortable climbing on roofs and operating like machinery, he started to get more of those acting jobs. And so he's sort of, somebody who tends to get a lot of those jobs, and he's very comfortable on a job site. Camilo, I don't know if Camilo has actually done any construction in the past, but he's an actor. He does plays, commercials and lives locally. Come to find out, he lives literally 5 minutes from me. I didn't realize that. I was like, wait a minute, you live where? You're 5 minutes from me. So that was kind of cool. And then the other guy was also an actor who was going to be in the DIY shoots. And the DIY shoot, or the DIY scenes that they had set up, I think he was actually using some spray foam around maybe a sink or maybe some of their adhesives, but he was shooting pretty much on a different day. I just got to meet him on day one. So anyway, we're all kind of sitting around, getting to know each other, waiting for the crew to get set up. And Camilo was up first. He did great. They're taking his picture. I'm kind of in behind the scenes taking footage of him so I could send it to him. And then it was my turn. And so what they wanted me to do was to apply some of this spray foam around the piping. I think it was like a 1-inch pipe that was going through a 2x4. And so typically whenever you have piping that's going through 2x4s, or if you've got electrical wiring going through 2x4s, you can spray foam it so that it's secure and it's just sort of something you shoot into the hole and then that's it. It doesn't have to look pretty. Well, we're recording this. We're taking video clips and photography. And so it had to go on there. And when I say perfect, I'm going to say perfect because, it had to look like a professional was doing it. It had to cooperate. There were so many variables. And let me tell you, I could not, for the life of me, get this foam to come out exactly as they wanted this foam to come out. And if you've ever used spray foam, you know that this stuff has a mind of its own. As a friend of mine described it, it's like trying to fill a cup with a freaking fireman's hose. That's what it's like. It's nearly impossible to control this. Now, if you're just going in a crack and you're going straight down through, let's say around a window or a door, it's not really too difficult to apply, right? You don't want to overshoot it into the cavity, but you want to make sure that it's in there. It's got enough room to expand. And then whatever's sticking out, you can trim that away so that your drywall and your trim can go over it and cover it up. But going around a plumbing hole that was very small, it just wasn't working. So we kept doing it over and over and over again. And, sometimes I would do it and it would be too slow, or maybe the flow wasn't coming out fast enough. And so because the flow wasn't coming out fast enough, what do? You want to pull the trigger a little bit harder. And when you do that, guess what happens? It's like whipped cream coming out of a whipped cream. Like if you were to push it full blast, that's what the spray foam did. And so there were times when it was very embarrassing because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm hired here as a pro in the pro shots. So I should know how to do this. I should be able to get this. And I could tell that the crew was getting frustrated. And we were coming up against lunch. At this point, we had, I think, maybe 5-10 minutes before lunch. And then the worst thing happened. So because we had so little time, one of the representatives from Great Stuff actually came upstairs to where we were shooting. And they said, okay, take your jacket off, Serena. So I take my jacket off, I take my gloves off, and I give it to the woman who is there from Great Stuff, one of the brand representatives. And she attempted to do it. Now, let me tell you how that made me feel. I felt so bad. Imagine being hired to do a job that suddenly somebody else has to come in to try to do it because it's just not working. And you feel terrible. So as I was standing there, before she came upstairs, as I was standing there, again, trying to get this shot, trying not to make it everywhere, I just remember thinking, okay, Serena, this is what you were afraid of. You were afraid that when you got on set, something was not going to cooperate with this spray foam, and that you're going to be afraid that everyone's going to think that you're a fraud, right? Like, you know that, well, you don't know, but I assumed that some of the people there, not all of them, knew that I had like a DIY channel and a blog and, I've done insulation, but here I just look like a complete novice. And it was embarrassing. So as I'm standing there waiting for the guy to clean it up, because every time I messed up, there was a guy standing there who was the one handling the product, right? So, if you made a mistake, or even if you didn't make a mistake, when you're shooting video or taking pictures, you have to do multiple takes. So even if you did the perfect insulation spray foam, you got to do it 3-4 times, or maybe at least 3, in order to make sure that you've got enough variation. Because later in post-production, you could look at that and say, oh, yeah, we didn't capture enough, or I didn't realize that there was something there in the background, or, maybe her wrist was showing and we can't show any skin. So you always want to get variation so that you have multiple ones to choose from in the event that one of them just didn't work out properly and you didn't realize it at the time. So they had this spray adhesive. It's not spray adhesive, but it's like a spray. I actually think it was acetone, but they have acetone that you spray and it completely dissolves the foam, which is amazing. So if you ever work with insulation spray foam, get the spray adhesive, or not the spray adhesive, but the spray stuff that comes off with it. Like you'll see it right next to the other great stuff in the aisle. Make sure you get it. You spray it and that stuff just literally melts away. The acetone just melts it away. And so every time that you have to do another take, the guy comes in, sprays it, wipes it down, and then everybody has to set up again. Okay, rolling and action. And so then you have to do it. So just imagine with all eyes on you, you go to spray and it comes out like whipped cream. And it's just horrible. So after enough takes, the representative from the brand comes upstairs. I didn't even realize what was going on, but they're like, yeah, give her your jacket, give her your gloves. And I thought I was just doing sort of like a wardrobe change, but I didn't realize that she was going to stand in for me and not show my face, but just her hands and her gloves. And she was going to do it. And she did it maybe twice. And then it was time for lunch. And we broke for lunch. And I felt horrible. Let me tell you, I felt so bad. I just remember thinking, I was like, well, this is not going as planned. But this is what I feared, that I would not be able to perform as they had expected me to. This imposter syndrome, it was exactly what I feared. So after lunch, and I was telling the other actors, like, this is what happened. And they were like, oh man, that sucks. So after lunch, we go back because we had to get stills. At that point, we were just taking videos. We had to get stills when we go back to, where my shot was. And one of the guys on the set said, oh, well, how are your knees? Hopefully they're good physically. Or physically, I hope you're good, right? Is what he said, because I had been leaning down and my knees were just killing me on that subfloor. And he said, oh, I hope your knees are good. I was like, yeah, but I don't know about my ego. And I just made that comment and laughed. Well, one of the guys on the set, he comes up and he says, I think he might have been like maybe the producer. I don't quite remember his role, but he comes up and he says, even the girl from the brand, she came up and did it. I mean, when she came up and did it, even she didn't get it. So don't worry about it. It wasn't working well. Like it wasn't a good shot. And it made me feel so at ease because when she did it, I mean, it didn't bust out the way mine did, but it still wasn't what they wanted it to be. And so I think at that point, maybe they just decided they were going to scrap that shot and they would film it later, maybe with a different hole, maybe with a different camera angle or something in order to get it, to what they needed it to be. Or who knows, maybe they caught enough footage and they'll be able to use some of that footage. I don't know. But when he said that to me, it made me feel so much better. I was like, oh, because I was feeling terrible. So when I came home that day, I was telling my husband, called my mom. I was like, yeah, didn't really have a great day. Kind of wasn't able to do the job that I was hired to do. And my self-esteem really took a hit. I'll admit that I felt really crappy that day. And I'm like, please let day number 2 be much better. So when I arrived the next day, which was Tuesday of this week, I did have 2 different jobs. And I was a little dismayed because one of the jobs or one of the scenes that I was supposed to do, they had given it to Jason. And, I saw Jason on camera. I mean, he looked fantastic. He just looked like somebody who belonged in that shot. And I started thinking, well, maybe they just didn't realize I wasn't going to be what they wanted them to, what they wanted me to be. And the second day, the 2 shots that I did, you couldn't even see my face. It was all close-up handwork. So one of the shots they had me do was holding the spray gun and attaching one of the cans of the spray foam and then sort of walking off. But it was a very quick shot. And we spent probably about 30 minutes trying to get, the right shot, doing it over and over and over. And then the other shot that I had was around this little, it wasn't a pond, but they had set up this cute, and they were actually going to get little koi fish to put in there, but they couldn't find any. They were all, they were all sold out. But they had like this little water feature that they had set up right there at the construction site. And it was going to be a close shot. Of course, you couldn't do a wide shot because of all the construction stuff that was around. So it was really just designed to be a close shot. And that's what I did. So you couldn't even see me. All you could see was my hands. And so, I had to pick up the rock, apply some of the spray foam, set the rock back down. And I was even worried about that. Like, what if I spray this stuff everywhere and it just doesn't work again? So there was that fear of, it didn't work on day 1. What if it doesn't work on day 2? And why are they not even showing my face? Now I'm just hands and gloved hands. Is that all I'm good for? So again, on day 2, I walked away not really feeling good about the job that I'd performed. And, I wonder if you've ever had experiences like that, where you were hired to do a job, or maybe you weren't even hired. Maybe you were just asked to help. Whether or not you were paid doesn't matter. But you were supposed to perform a certain way and you didn't, and you internalized it. And you thought, oh my gosh, it's me. It's not anything else but me. I can't perform to that level of expectation, or, I'm just not as talented as what people think I am. I'm not as accomplished. And that imposter syndrome is real. And the minute something happens, it feeds into that imposter syndrome and just makes you say, see, I knew I wasn't. But here's the thing. When I was in that situation on day 1, where I could not get this spray to come out, while the guy's cleaning it up, I'm standing there and, my heart's kind of racing a little bit. I'm kind of feeling some performance anxiety. I started saying to myself, I said, well, Serena, this is kind of what you feared would happen. Like, this is what you feared would happen. What's the worst that can happen at this point? Nothing. You're here, you're getting paid, you're getting the experience of getting to be a part of this, and it's okay. Just do your best. If you're doing your best, and even if you're doing your best and it's not working out, that's okay, because it might not be you. These cans are finicky. Keep in mind, we didn't have heat. We did have, little heat stations set up, but it was cold in those buildings. I mean, they were under construction, and it was actually colder inside than it was outside. So sometimes we'd go outside and stand in the sun just to warm up, because inside it was so cold. So what if these cans of spray foam were not cooperating properly because it was just cold inside? There's all these factors that could have caused this to not work very well. Or this is just the nature of the product. And so you're trying to have it come across as a certain way on camera. So you want it to be quote unquote perfect. But in reality, it's not perfect. Like, I can't live up to that standard of what you want this spray foam to look like. And it's just not working. So anyway, that was day 1. Day 2, I was still upset because I felt that I was being demoted. But I still, I had a good attitude. I wasn't, crabby. I have a pretty professional attitude when I'm on when I'm working. So it, it didn't come across. It was just more of like, oh man, maybe I'm not what they want. Anyway, I said, let's just see what day 3 has in store for us, right? So Monday, Tuesday, we were on set, and then we were changing locations and going to a different location on Thursday. We were going to a warehouse in Baltimore, a dirty, cold warehouse. And when I say dirty, this place was dirty. I mean, I don't even know what they were. I think they were just storing some stuff there. Whoever owned this, or whoever was storing stuff there in this warehouse, but it was just big, cold, dirty. It kind of smelled like mold. But this is where we set up to do the rest of our shots. And, I showed up with a great attitude. I couldn't wait to see what I was going to do. And so part of my job on Thursday, just yesterday, was to apply some black spray foam to some siding, right? And so they had a little, and you'll see, I have video footage. And so I'm trying to get this up on YouTube this week. So you'll get to actually see the sets and the things that I was talking about. But on this set that I was working on, they had built what looked like a small little deck, some framing there, and they had put up some panels of siding and then put what looks like an electrical box and put some plants there to make it look like I was on the side of my house, right? Or on the side of a house. And it looked pretty good, actually. I mean, it looked good on the footage. I mean, it was just in a dirty warehouse. Wait till you see it, because it's just crazy. But anyway, what I needed to do was apply this black spray foam around this box. And you can imagine how anxiety-ridden I was as I was stepping up to do this, because they were going to be filming me. And here's the thing, with that spray acetone that they were spraying, it got all over the siding. It was like light blue siding. And so you had this black spray foam dripping down the side. So every time the guy who was, the cleanup guy, every time he had to come in and clean up, it was like 10 minutes. And remember, you have to do multiple takes. Well, multiple takes is just part of the business. But if you mess up, that's even multiple on top of multiple takes. So I said to myself, like, Serena, come on, like, you need to make sure you do not mess this up. We do not want any explosions of this spray foam. So I'm happy to report that we only had to do like 2 or 3 takes, and that's it. Like, we were able to get it. And I even had gotten complimented. Like, someone said, wow, are you like, somebody that didn't know me and my background? He's like, oh, are you like a professional, like insulation I was like, no, I'm not. So that actually felt good. I don't know if he was joking or what, but at that point I felt like I'd redeemed myself, because I wasn't causing unnecessary stress to the crew and causing a backup in the schedule. They're when you go to a set like this, they've got a shoot schedule, right? So lunch is like 12:30, and you've got certain shots that have to be done before lunch, and then you've got your after lunch shots. And once it starts getting up to lunchtime, if you keep messing up, or if you're just not professional, or whatever the reason is, you're causing a whole crew to be delayed. You are impacting the entire schedule for the day, and that sucks. I've been on sets before, like when I was shooting with Ryobi, I was doing some videos with them several years ago, and I had scripts that I had to memorize. And that was kind of difficult, because sometimes you just couldn't remember like certain lines. And so every time you messed up, then you have to kind of stop. Okay, let's reset. And then you have to do it again and again. So you really want to be as professional as possible when you come to set, so that people are not wasting their time, right? I remember this was sometime last year. I did a Walmart commercial, and it was not a commercial for television. It was just for like their social media or whatever. But they didn't tell me to come with a script. They didn't even tell me to write a script. They were just like, oh no, it's going to be fun. You're just going to be like doing some things with like candles and some pillows, like little decorating things for fall, getting ready for fall. And I thought, oh, okay, well, this is cool. Well, I showed up to the set, and they totally did not give me the right information, because the way that it was set up, there should have been scripts. I should have been practicing a script, so that when I was when I hear action, I know exactly what I'm going to say. And sometimes I actually will write scripts for these kinds of commercials or content that I'm making. Sometimes I will write a script and I can deliver it naturally, and I can memorize it. But I went to that set with no script. And so the first part of it, I was able to ad lib because I guess I'm just good like that. But by the end of the day, after so many different sets and changes, not changes, but we had changed scenes multiple times, I started losing my voice. I don't know, like my voice is, I just have a scratchier voice. And, if I talk all day, I lose my voice by the end of the day. It just happens. I went to a conference back in September and literally talked all day to like this cool person that I met. And by the end of the day, the next night, I had no voice. So by the end of this Walmart commercial, I was starting to lose my voice and had to really try to project. So because I was distracted by the pain in my throat from just talking all day, it was starting to get frustrating. And every time I would mess up, I would just, and you could see that I was becoming frustrated because not only do you want to perform well, but you also feel bad for all the people that are looking at you, trying to make sure that you get it right. And that's a lot of pressure. And that's the pressure that I felt when I was on set this week, because I did not want to get it wrong. I did not want to do a poor job and have them think, man, we hired the wrong person. And by the third day, because I didn't explode it everywhere, I started getting some compliments like, wow, that's pretty good. We did it. You did a good job. And I needed that. I wanted that. And it felt good to hear people say that I was doing a good job. So I did my sets and I didn't have as much. I don't think I had as much stuff as Camilo. Camilo, oh my gosh, they were working him. He was over, he had his set over at the side. I was doing my set over with the siding. And Jason, he was doing some part of the siding too, like with the piping. But then towards the end of the day, he was doing some piping where they had set up a display with what looks to be like a concrete wall. And there was some piping coming out. So he had to do some piping around there or some insulation around there. But let me tell you, Jason actually had some problems later that day with the piping. He also was having the same problems that I had with the can on the first day, where it would come out just a little bit and then suddenly just exploding everywhere. So, you never want to hear, and he was feeling the same way, but you never want to hear that somebody was struggling, but it kind of validated me a little bit that, okay, well, it sounds like it really was the product. It wasn't us, because we're not total morons. Like we can spray insulation foam and it just wasn't cooperating sometimes. Certain cans were not cooperating. So anyway, that's how the shoot went. But what was really exciting was meeting the people there, the actors, the makeup artist. She was so funny. Her name was BB, and she had like these one-liner, these zingers. So this one moment when I was working on my set and I was leaned over and, her job is to make sure that everything is in place, right? So if she notices a hair out of place, she steps up, fixes that. If she notices I'm too shiny, apply some powder, whatever, just making sure that all of my wardrobe and makeup look good. And so they were talking about what product that they're going to spray. Are we going to use the caps and the gaps and cracks, the 1 inch? Are we going to do the wider spray foam? So BB steps up and she's like, speaking of gaps and cracks, and she proceeds to pull my jacket down over my pants. Now, I wasn't sticking out, but it was just a little funny thing that she had said at the perfect moment. And I just thought it was hilarious. It was just so fun working on a set and meeting new people. When you work alone or when you work from home, there's not a lot of opportunity to meet new people. So when you get out there and you meet people that you have similar interests, similar skills, backgrounds, it's invigorating. Don't you think it's invigorating? I do. Like, I learned so many cool things about Jason, the model that I was telling you about, the actor. I mean, he was telling me that he had created, and I don't want to go into the whole story because this episode will be so long, but he had created something called race dots. He used to be a cyclist. And, you know, when you're a cyclist, when you're a runner, when you perform as an athlete, they usually give you these race bibs. And you have to take this and apply it to your clothing. Well, what do they give you? They give you a safety pin. Well, if you're wearing a $100 Lululemon shirt, athletic shirt, the last thing you want to do is put a pin in that shirt and ruin it. So he had actually patented these magnets, and he hand makes them here in Maryland, in Frederick. He hand makes these magnets and puts them and allows you to put your bib on your clothing without any damage to your clothing. He patented that. Now, he said there are companies that have come after him in order to copy this, but he's got the patent on it. And that's so cool. This is stuff that you don't learn about people unless you ask questions, unless you get engaged in conversation with new, different people. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And to hear his story, it was just fascinating. There was just so many things about him that I really enjoyed learning. He's renovating an RV. It's been about a year now. And he showed me some pictures. It looks amazing. I said, you got to come on my podcast. I want to hear all about it. So hopefully I'll be able to keep in contact with him, maybe collaborate with him. He does video. He's an art director. He's got a rich background in this field. So maybe there's a way that he and I can collaborate on something thrift diving related. Who knows? And Camilo, he was really cool and was telling me that there's a lot of casting agents within the Maryland, DC, Baltimore area, where if you get in with this casting agency, you can actually get commercials, you can get acting gigs. And well, I've never done a play. I think it would be so cool to be a play. I don't even know if I would be good as an actress, but it's always been something that, like, man, I would love to be in a play. But of course, I don't know if I'd have time to do that. But he was telling me about these opportunities, and who knows, this could be another stream of income for me. I love being on a set. I think it's something that I do well generally. And to meet people that are willing to share that knowledge with me was awesome. And, you know, he and I had some cool things in common. And the fact that he lives 5 minutes away, we were thinking about collaborating on something with thrift diving because he does photography. He's into videography. And I may even be able to hire him or even just have him, you know, film something for free to get experience so that he can help build, or so he can build his portfolio. And then I can possibly test him out and maybe hire him to do some videography work for me. So this is the kind of like cool stuff that you learn when you're put into situations where you are meeting people and you're genuinely interested in getting to know who they are, what they're about. I just thought it was a great week. And now you can tell why I'm so mentally tired, because, you know, the stress of going to a location and hoping that you don't bomb, that's stressful, right? But then the excitement of meeting new people, I mean, that's a good stress, but that's still stressful, right? Because you're out of your comfort zone. And I think this weekend, I'm just going to relax and chill. That's it. And I'm just going to watch Netflix, and whatever project I had planned for this weekend, the metal cabinets, they're actually still sitting here in the shed. Those can wait till next week. I am relaxing. Oh man. Anyway, I'm thankful that you allowed me to share this with you. I know it's not something, I mean, it is kind of like DIY related. It's not something specific like, hey, how to paint over metal cabinets. But I just wanted to share my week with you to give you an idea of what it's like to be on a set, working with a brand, and, you know, showing up expecting to perform and feeling really bad when you feel like you're not able to perform to the best of your ability, and how it may not be you, could be the product, but imposter syndrome, it's real. It's real. And sometimes I think people may let the imposter syndrome prevent them from moving forward because they don't feel that they're creative enough. Or, in my case, I was questioning the whole time before the actual shoot. Wow, they put me in the pro category. Like, I should have been in the DIY category. But then when I actually talked to one of the actors that was hired for the DIY category, he had never even used spray foam before. He said, well, I just do little things around the house. Like maybe I might, change a ceiling fan or, replace, I don't know, some just little small things. And I thought, yeah, I'm definitely not just a DIYer. I've done a lot more than that. And then I started seeing, well, yeah, I am a pro. Maybe I don't work on a job site every day, but I'm a crew leader with Habitat for Humanity. So I have construction experience. I went to school for construction. I've done a 2-year program. So I understand framing. I understand how to use tools. So yeah, I'm a pro. So it took the whole week for me to get to the end of the week where I was like, you know what? I am a pro. I'm a pro. And I think it's hard sometimes to own that because you want to downplay your skills and your ability so that you don't, so you don't look like you're pumping yourself up in front of other people. But sometimes people see things in you that you don't see yourself. So somebody may look at you and say, oh my gosh, you're a really great fill in the blank. And in your mind, you're like, no, I'm really not. It's just something I like to do on the side. But regardless of how much time you spend at it, if you're really good at it, own it. Just say thank you. When someone gives you a compliment, you're a really good singer, or wow, you're an excellent painter. Let somebody give you a compliment and accept that and say thank you. And I think we talked about that before in a previous podcast episode. But anyway, it's getting late. I didn't think that I was going to talk this long, but I really just wanted to share with you and kind of document what it was like working on the set of, doing I say commercial, but, this isn't a commercial that's going to be on, television. This is going to be for their YouTube channel, their social media, internet platforms. But, honestly, it's not as glamorous as people think. There's a lot of downtime when you're waiting for them to set up lights, to set up the camera, to figure out how this shot is going to be played out. And when you're called to set, sometimes there's just a lot of stuff going on around, and sometimes you don't even feel like a person because it's not about you. It's about the product. And that can be clothing. That could be insulation, spray foam. It can be anything, but you're the talent and you're there to perform a job. And sometimes it's physically demanding because you're standing for long. Well, I say standing for long hours. You could be standing for long hours, crouched down into positions while the photographer is just snapping away, snapping. And there were times when my body started shaking, like literally shaking. And, I was just waiting like, oh, please come on, photographer. In my mind, I'm like, please let that be the last picture. And then when it was, I would just, and I was like, I know you could see me shaking. Like I was holding that pose because it can be very physically demanding and emotionally demanding. But it's also really cool too when you see what it takes to put a production together like this. I mean, the amount of people involved, my goodness. There was the photographer, there was like the videographer, the creative director, the hair and makeup. I mean, all of these people, just, people holding the lights and holding equipment that you don't even realize was needed. I mean, it's a whole production. And just standing there looking at all that, and I'm thinking, wow, here I am in my shed with just my one camera, moving it around, capturing whatever footage I can from different angles. I don't even have multiple cameras set up. Like, this is a huge production. And you can't compare what I do in my shed to what a huge production can do. But, there's value to both. There's value to both. And who knows, maybe one day I'll have a production company with all of those people to be able to do what I do here at Thrift Diving. But I kind of like just being here in my shed sometimes by myself, creating content. It's pretty cool. And then having experiences like this to go out and meet new people that are doing things that I love and that have similar backgrounds as me, making new connections. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. All right, that's what I have for you today. I do have some really cool shows coming up. I've got some guests coming up. I know that I've got something scheduled with Habitat for Humanity. I really want to share with you more about their mission and about what it's like to be a volunteer and just the amazing work that they're doing. And hopefully to inspire you to volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. So I've got that interview coming up this week. I'm going to be talking to my friend Nancy, who was scammed via a romance scam, and she lost thousands of dollars. And she and I had a really interesting conversation about how people can actually lose their homes by people basically stealing the title of their home from underneath their noses. So we have a conversation we're going to do this week, and that's going to be coming up for the podcast, and a couple other people too. So hopefully you like interviews instead of me just talking to you, but I like both actually. All right. Well, be sure to find me on thriftdiving.com. You can send me an email, serena@thriftdiving.com. Hit me up on Instagram @thriftdiving. Let me know what you think of this episode. Did you ever experience imposter syndrome, and what was it like? Tell me all about it. I want to hear about your experience, because we all have it at one point or another in our life, in our career, and mine just happened this week. So I'm sharing mine with you. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I love showing up every week, and I'm so thankful that you do. And I will see you next episode.
Diving. Find it ugly, make it pretty. Paint the power tools, alright. Saving money with those thrift store vibes.